Boston Celtics get hot from three. They're winning the day and a very important 4 seconds of basketball all right now on a bonus Locked On Celtics podcast.
Thanks to Blockbuster brand, it's holiday season. Drop Drew in the mix, and 3 from KP. No, we not on the Knicks. Flushing competition like Al on Giannis. Juice and Big Juice, still Bean Town's finest. Banner 18 going up in the rafters. Watch the C's game in locked on after. Karalis on the breakdown, clutch like a tip from D White on the breakdown. John on the mic documenting domination. Matter pen a back bay, it's all C's nation. Rain and J's how we started, raising business, how we finish. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. Peace.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I've got you covered every day, Monday through Friday. Bonus podcasts on the weekends like this one when they play on a Saturday night. Their 5th game in 7 nights, and I'm on a 13 podcast and 14-day stretch. So you know you better be subscribed if you're not already. Get into that YouTube page, subscribe there, hop into the comment section. Let me know what you think about me, about the team, about the game. So go ahead and comment. If you don't know me, I'm John Karalis. Used to play a long time ago. Now I'm a beat writer covering the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. Today, Boston Celtics beat the, that's not the Detroit Pistons. They beat the Chicago Bulls. All right, fix that graphic there on the YouTube page. Sorry, audio listeners. I have a graphic that I put up on the YouTube page, and I forgot to change the team. Boston Celtics still won, but they beat a different team in this one. It's the Chicago Bulls, 124-113. Later on, I'll talk about their win-the-day mentality. We'll talk about Luke Kornet. We'll talk about their hot shooting and that 4 seconds of basketball that, I don't know, I latch onto things every once in a while in these games, and that's something that I'm latching onto. First, let's get this out of the way. Magic number is 1 to clinch the East. The magic number is 6 to clinch the NBA. So, top seed. Next win or Bucks loss means the Celtics officially clinch the top seed in the East. It's going to happen because there are a lot of games left, and pretty sure Boston is going to win one of these games coming up. It might happen in their next game. Pretty sure the Bucks are going to lose one of these games coming up. But actually, I would probably root for the Bucks on Sunday when they're playing the OKC Thunder, because you want that NBA magic number to come down as well. You know the Bucks are going to lose one of these games at some point. So the East is done. That's a wrap. So the next Boston win, the next Milwaukee loss clinches that. And now we're just waiting for them to clinch the top overall seed. So that's what you get when you win 9 games in a row. The Boston Celtics have 12 more wins than the Milwaukee Bucks and an 11.5 game lead in the East. It's kind of amazing that these guys are out here 57-14. The only other team that has 50 wins so far is the Denver Nuggets. They're 50-21. Maybe the Celtics would have had a few more losses if they'd played out west rather than in the East. But hey, it is what it is, and the Celtics are a 57-win team on their way to 60-plus wins. And just appreciate that for a second. 60-plus wins. That's going to happen this year. Their 9-game winning streak is the second longest winning streak in the NBA this season. The number 1 winning streak in the NBA this season was 11 games. Also the Boston Celtics. The Celtics have gone on multiple winning streaks this year. It's kind of, when you look back at it right now, it's kind of nuts. But they are they're still finding ways to win these games, and they found a way to win this game by hitting another 21 3-pointers, 21 of 48 from 3. The Celtics. It's another incredible number. It's what they've been doing. And it's not just jacking threes. I look at this game and I'm not thinking like, oh, they're just firing up 3-pointers. Maybe a little bit early when they missed their first 4, but they're generating some really good ones. And the reason they got to 21, Sam Hauser, who was 7 of 8, that dude is definitely breaking the Celtics 3-point record. There's no doubt in my mind. Al Horford, 5 of 10. So those guys hit 12 of the 21, more than half of the 21 free throws. I mean, 3-pointers from those two guys. Horford was incredible. His third quarter was the most aggressive offensively I've seen Horford play in a long time, but he went out there. They made note of it during the game. March Madness. He's the Florida product, playing in front of his old coach at Florida, Billy Donovan. And that's always, I'm sure, a fun kind of reunion for those guys. And Al likes to go out there and play and have some fun in front of his old coach, to show him a little bit of something like, hey, remember when I used to do this stuff for you? So Al Horford was great. Third quarter from him was great. He scored 12 of his 23 points there, 8 rebounds, 2 offensive boards. The offensive rebounding was a big part of this. I'll get to that in a second. But Horford from 3, 5 of 10. Hauser just continues to just shoot like crazy. 23 points for him, 5 rebounds for him, but also a couple of steals and an assist. So the hot shooting, Derek White was only 3 of 11 from 3, but he hit 2 big ones in the fourth quarter. Celtics, if you're going to get 21 3-pointers on any night from anybody, it's going to be hard to beat that team. The Celtics put up 124 points. They didn't play the best defense in the world through the first 3 quarters, but it was their 5th game in 7 nights. And I know in the broadcast, they were like, oh, geez, I wonder why we're not defending as well as we used to. It's kind of out of character for us. Well, yeah, it's because the Celtics are on their 5th game in 7 nights. The last time they played a 5th game in 7 nights, it was in Milwaukee, where they got crushed by 1,000,000. And that's this is a much better result than that one. I'll tell you that much. So I guess, and I was critical of it of this performance in my post game on Boston Sports Journal a little bit, not too much, because this is like a win is a win. I feel like they took the opportunity to play down a little bit, but also the 5th and 7. I know it's been different lineups. They've been playing a bunch of different lineups, but it's still, whether you've played or not, all these different cities, all this different travel, it can be exhausting. So I guess I can cut them a little bit of slack there. But Chicago tested them. Chicago does a good job of forcing turnovers. They do a good job of forcing live ball turnovers, and they definitely did that. They scored a bunch of points off Boston turnovers. 6 Boston turnovers in each half, but in the first half they gave up, I think, 14 points off of those turnovers, and it was only like 6 or something in the second half, not or 4 in the second half. So they fixed that. But Chicago, big, very impressive here with the rebounding, because Chicago went big. They played Vucevic and they played Andre Drummond together for a while. And that's usually a recipe for the Celtics to give up a bunch of offensive rebounds, but they didn't. In fact, Boston only gave up 3 offensive rebounds in this game, while they got 12. Big performance from Luke Kornet, who had 5 offensive rebounds. Not only did he have the 5 offensive rebounds, he had a couple of tip outs that he got fouled on. So he kept even more possessions alive than those 5 offensive rebounds would suggest. 13 rebounds overall for him. Horford had a couple of offensive rebounds. Hauser got in for 1. Tatum got in for 1. Brissett got in and had 3 in less than 17 minutes for giving energy off the bench. So the Celtics really attacked the offensive boards, and they ended up getting more possessions out of it and more shots out of it. They talk about the margins. Missoula talks about the margins, and they shot 4 more shots than Chicago. They shot literally twice as many 3-pointers, and made 21 to Chicago's 9. They got to the line 17 times to Chicago's 11. The offensive rebounding was there. The turnovers were a little bit of an issue, and the Celtics had what is it? 28 assists to Chicago's 36 assists. So they lost that battle there a little bit. But the Celtics were able, because of their rebounding, to win some of those margins that Missoula really emphasizes. Kornet was just great. He's been great recently. And look, a lot of people at the beginning of the season were like, how can you play Kornet? How can you play Luke Kornet over Nemayesh Keita? How is that possible, Joe? And here's Luke Kornet just taking a step forward, and maybe it was a revenge game for Kornet in Chicago, but he was great, tough, getting in there for tough rebounds. That's the toughest we've seen him play in a long time. And, without Porzingis, that's an amazing kind of guy to have off of the bench, because you just plug him in and he's out there keeping possessions alive. Incredible performance from him. Tatum was okay, not. He had 26 points, 6 assists. He did have 5 turnovers. Didn't shoot particularly great, but 26 and 6 is a decent night, but this is ho-hum for me. 23 for Hauser, 23 for Horford, 17 for Derek White, who, like I said, not the best shooting night for him either, but he had clutch ones. Peyton Pritchard didn't shoot all that great, but 15 points and 8 assists. He's dropping dimes like crazy. You got the contributions. Mikhailuk comes in and hits a shot. Tough corner three. Now and made a positive impact. Brissett comes in with energy. Tillman comes in and contributes a little bit. And then there's 4 seconds of Jaden Springer. I want to spend a couple of minutes here talking about the 4 seconds of Jaden Springer, because I thought this was actually really important and smart and good coaching, because the Bulls had been hanging around. The Celtics couldn't shake them. They shot 57% overall. They scored 113 points. They hung around. They played well and were in there until midway through the fourth quarter, when the Celtics got a little bit of separation. 3-point game at the end of the third quarter, 4 seconds to go, off of, I think, a free throw or turnover or missed shot, whatever it was. Drawing a blank on that. Chicago gets the ball. Joe calls Jaden Springer in, and he said Jaden was shocked because it's like 4 seconds before the end of the quarter, and it's like, hey, Jaden, get in there, pick up. You're picking up full court. Okay, yeah, sure, get in there. And he did, and they didn't get a shot off. He hounded DeMar DeRozan, and by the time they got to half court, DeMar DeRozan jumps up and he's like, nah, you know what? I'm not going to throw this heave. In a 3-point game, this is a turning point where you don't know what happens if they are able to push the ball up the floor. 4 seconds is a lot of time. If you inbound it and 2 dribbles, you still have a second and a half to get yourself a shot. If there's a pass that you can make to a shooter, right? You get that ball in, especially if you get a good lead pass, there's a possibility of getting a good look. If Chicago was able to hit a 3 in that moment and tie the game, think about Chicago beating the buzzer with a 3-pointer to tie the game at 95. Think about how that fourth quarter changes, right? But instead, you bring in Springer, you sick him on DeRozan, you get the miss. Now Boston comes out at the beginning of the fourth quarter and hits a couple of shots. Brissett gets a dunk. Hauser gets a 3-point shot. All of a sudden, it's 100-92. Think about a very plausible scenario where it's 95-95 and Chicago comes in and maybe gets a stop because they're so energized. Maybe one of those shots that they miss in the opening moments of the fourth quarter becomes a make. The momentum swing of Chicago hitting a shot at the end of the third quarter versus getting that stop, it's hard for me to say because it didn't happen. So there's a lot of guessing, and I feel like this could have been, but really we've seen it in the past. We've seen what a buzzer beater does for a team, that energy, the crowd. All of a sudden that shot goes in, buzzer goes off. Oh, crowd goes nuts. Ah, they're going to the bench. They're jumping and high-fiving and chest thumping. And the Celtics would be going to the bench, like shaking their heads, like, oh man, here we go. And the feeling changes, the adrenaline changes you. So you come out of that timeout and you're like, yeah, baby, let's go. If you're Chicago, let's go. But none of that's there. None of that emotional boost is there. None of that adrenaline boost, that feeling, that dopamine hit, none of that stuff from the crowd, none of it hits. So instead, it becomes like, oh, still frustrated. We still can't quite get there. We're there. We just got to get over that hump. And boom, 5 straight points off the top of the fourth quarter. And look, again, Chicago hung around, right? It got down to 4 a few times, but the Celtics came out of that break and they were doing their job, right? They were doing what they had to do. Brissett hits a 3. You get Derek White hitting a couple of shots. Luke Kornet gets an alley-oop in there. That kind of sequence, I don't think is there if Chicago gets a shot off and hits it at the end of the third. So put me down for like 4 seconds of Jaden Springer as a very important, very little, but very important thing for the Celtics. It's those little things that add up to big things in the playoffs. So smart coaching by Joe Mazzulla to kind of make sure that Chicago doesn't get that good feeling. It's kind of like when he was challenging that shot the other game. You just don't want them to feel good about themselves. So it's just, I thought it was a really good moment. Important moment. Small thing, but it can be a big deal. And it's all part of the Celtics mantra of winning the day. And this is something that came out, it's been talked about all season long, but the Celtics are so focused on this winning the day mentality that this really is, I think, the defining characteristic of this team right now. The defining mental characteristic of the Celtics is win the day. And whatever that day brings, could be a game. Can you win the day? Can you win this game? It's a practice. Can you go out there and practice hard, learn something, be better at something? Can you pick something up in film that makes you a better basketball player, even a little bit? Win that day. Are you resting? Can you win the day by sitting out? Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum in the game before. Can you sit out? Can you get your treatment? Can you feel better going to bed and waking up the following morning? That would be winning the day just by resting, because that little bit of rest, rejuvenation, is part of getting yourself ready for the playoffs. Can you win that day? Go through your treatment, go through your film sessions, go through something that makes you feel better somehow. That's all winning the day. And I think Mazzulla saw that last season, the Celtics were too focused on the big picture. I had a conversation with Tillman at practice recently, and we talked about that. And he said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, basically, if you're focused too much on the big picture, then the mistakes that you make can be magnified, because you're like, Got to win a championship. The whole goal is to win a championship. All we want to do is win a championship. And you make some bad plays. You're like, well, that's not going to win us a championship. I can't be making bad plays if we're going to win a championship. But if you stay in the moment, if you stay present, if you want to win the day, you say, okay, I made some bad plays. How can I win the day? How can I win the day now? And it just kind of, if you forget about the big picture, because we all know what the big picture is. We all know how good this team is. They've won 57 games so far. They know. They haven't lost the game in weeks. So they get it. They know. But if you stay present and you say, okay, couple of bad plays, what can I do now? What can I do? What's next for me? I turn the ball over. All right, let me go get a stop. Let's get back down there. Let's focus on this defense and get the ball back and make up for the turnover. Let's get a stop, and now it's even, and let's come back down there and we'll do it better next time. That's winning the day. And the Celtics, no matter who is out, no Jaylen Brown for this one, no Porzingis, no Holiday, who, by the way, was out pregame working out, so that was good. He looked good from the little bit that I saw. But winning the day and focusing on who do we have? Okay, we've got Sam Hauser starting. Well, Luke Kornet starting. We got, maybe it's Peyton Pritchard starting. Whoever it is. Okay, how can we be great with this group? All right, let's figure it out. That's the question that they ask themselves. And it's something that, you know, it's a great life lesson as well. I think so, the best basketball strategies and approaches translate to life. Every day you can ask yourself, how do I win today? How do I win this day for myself? Am I being a good person? Am I getting stuff done at work? Am I getting my taxes done? Am I doing something somehow to advance what I need to accomplish? Am I winning this day? And I think if you can translate something like that to life, it's a pretty good strategy. And so the Celtics are doing a great job of winning the day. They've won 9 of those days along this way here. They continue to do it. And even though it was the 5th game in 7 nights, and hey, it was a different 5 games in 7 nights than the last time because the competition has not been quite as good. So that's great. But Celtics still find ways, no matter what, no matter who's out, missing 3 starters. 3 starters. Think about a team missing 3 starters and allowing the other team to shoot 50, what did they shoot? 57%, did I say? Overall. That, yeah, 57.3. How you allow, how that team doesn't win is amazing. The Celtics missing 3 starters and allowing that defensively and giving up 13 points. But there they are in the fourth quarter, getting stops, making shots, and all of a sudden they're winning this game by 11. This is a team that's trying to kind of hang on and make some kind of noise in the playoffs, or at least get into the playoffs, right? They're a potential playoff team. They want to win. They really want to win. The Celtics haven't given any of these teams a shot. So an 11-point win, another double-digit win. It feels like they're going to lose at some point here. I think they're starting to waver a little bit. They played 2 games in Atlanta. Atlanta's a little party town. Not little, it's a big party town. Jaylen's from there, so Jaylen's going to go home. He's going to really enjoy himself, I think, at home. They have a day off. So not only was this their 5th game in 7 nights, if you take a smaller chunk, they're going to play. That Atlanta game is going to be their 3rd in 4 nights. Then they get 2 days off. They play Atlanta again. One of those is going to be probably a loss. Atlanta's dangerous. They are not a good defensive team. They'll give up a ton of points, but they can score a ton of points. And if the legs are a little weary, and if they were out a little late the night before, if there's a little bit of a hangover involved, then yeah, one of these Atlanta games could be problematic. It's going to happen. Not a big deal. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes, but I'll be here for it. I'll be here for it all. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. Watch a show on YouTube. Would love it if you are an everydayer. Come join me here on the Locked On Celtics podcast. Trying to have fun here, covering the team, covering it for you. So get into that comment section on the YouTube page. Let me know what you think. And I'd love it if you share the podcast, spread the word, tell your friends, tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Thanks to Blockbuster brand, it's holiday season. Drop Drew in the mix, and 3 from KP. No, we not on the Knicks. Flushing competition like Al on Giannis. Juice and Big Deuce, still Beantown's finest. Banner 18 going up in the rafters. Watch the C's game in Locked On after. Karalis on the breakdown, clutch like a tip from D White on the breakdown. John on the mic documenting domination. Matter pen back bay, it's all C's nation. Bill Russell the Bird, Hondo the Rondo, KG in the truth, all the legends in the roof. 2 Tommy points for Reggie and DJ. IT, the killer with the big heart, was the hardest. Rain and J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked On Celtics pod, home of the winners. Peace.